Hello, hello, hello. Sorry I'm a little late. Of course. Let's see here. Chicken Lady, Eve, Laura, hello. Truly, hey sis. Good morning, everybody. Can y'all hear me good? So, Nikki Haley, she gonna drop out of the presidential race, huh? I guess she couldn't handle Trump and Trump beat her in her own state, right? We're gonna watch it live. Let's see here. And I'm going live at like 1:30, 2 o'clock too. About the abortion IVF stuff. Okay, I got a thing here. I want to play this little clip before our live comes on. Hey, Chicken Lady Love. What the fuck? Watch this here.
Morning. Sources say Nikki Haley will suspend her presidential campaign, leaving Donald Trump as the last major Republican candidate. A lot more to discuss with this, so let's bring in our Joe St. George, who is live in Washington, D.C. Joe, good to have you with us again, talking about the impact. We touched on this yesterday, but what are really the impacts of this decision?
Well, this wasn't as much of a surprise. Based on the results of Super Tuesday, which is what we saw last night, it was not what the Haley campaign drew up several months ago. She wanted to be much more competitive in a state like Virginia. She wanted to win more states on Super Tuesday than just Vermont. And the reality is that there was no path forward. And now, for up until this point, you could say that Haley didn't really have that much of a path. But from a math standpoint, many of the contests haven't taken place. The delegate avalanche that occurs on Super Tuesday hadn't occurred yet. So there was still a reason to pick up the phone, ask donors for more money. With former President Trump only 200 delegates mathematically away from clinching the nomination, that path became null and void for all intents and purposes. And that's why we're getting this news this morning, breaking just within the last 40 minutes or so. Scripps News confirming that Nikki Haley suspending her campaign. She'll be speaking at 10 a.m. this morning in South Carolina. Now there is a bigger question here. The bigger question is, does Haley attempt to unite the Republican Party under the banner of former President Donald Trump? Haley ran a pretty critical campaign these last few weeks of former President Trump. There were a lot of attacks on both sides, by the way. Does she pull a Ron DeSantis and endorse him? Or is there more division? And I'll give you one example of why this matters. In Michigan, a state that's going to be one of those swing states that decide this election this year, 300,000 Republicans voted for her in the Michigan primary a few weeks back. Where do they go now? Does Haley say something to bring them back to the Trump orbit? Or are those voters gettable for a President Joe Biden campaign? Are we on the verge of just a demographic shift with political parties in this country where you have the moderate Haley Republican voter maybe going to the Biden campaign, and you have some working class traditional Democratic voters being more enthralled with the Trump campaign? These are some of the big questions as we now officially shift into the general election mode this morning.
Yeah, big questions, no doubt. And now, Joe, that this is looking like a rematch of 2020's presidential race. What are some of the key takeaways for both of them from last night?
Both are vulnerable candidates. For all intents and purposes, both are incumbents to some degree. Former President Trump had the job before. He's attempting to do something that only Grover Cleveland in American history has done, and that's be president, no longer be president, and be president again. Cleveland was able to pull it off in the 1800s. Can Trump pull it off here in 2024? We shall see. Biden is vulnerable among, just as I mentioned, Trump has some vulnerabilities with moderate Republicans. There's still a number of the base, many young people who are frustrated with President Biden over his policies with Israel and Gaza. Some are upset with the climate. Some don't think he's doing more for progressives in the country. The one benefit that both of these campaigns have now is time. The Trump campaign has time to woo, to sway the moderate Haley voter. I think his VP pick will be critical when it comes to that, whoever that ends up being. And Biden's team has time to compare and contrast the policies of Trump and Biden's one-on-one. And the Biden campaign has told me informally that, look, they believe that when the spotlight shines on Biden and Trump exclusively, that many of these Democrats who are upset with Biden are going to ultimately come back to the Democratic Party. So we shall see. The general election shifts into another gear this morning.
Okay, so Jonathan, you are an attorney, of course.
Well, I mean, did y'all see me type in chat? Can y'all hear me, see me, or anything? Am I invisible today? I think you can, but I just want to make sure. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, thanks, Eve. You were there. I said that. Nobody answered me. Nothing. I was like, can they even fucking see me typing in chat now? I'm going to go ahead and just pull this one up and we'll get ready for this bitch. So we'll know when it comes live. Thank you, Truly. This is kind of a spur of the moment live too. I want to get all this, I'm going to try and cover all this. So expect some spur of the moments. Like last night I went live late when Trump was speaking. It should start any minute. She's actually 1 minute late. I agree, Robin. She is dropping out, I think. Trump beat her in her own state. I love it. How about y'all doing today? I have been cleaning I got 3 fish tanks. One with just my Trumpy fish in it, and then I got one with some Cory catfish and mystery snails. I don't know if you know what those are. Then I got another smaller tank with some other snails, and been working on cleaning all of them out so far this morning. So I was a little late. I want to finish that, and I got Trumpy some new plants and stuff to put in there. You ain't got work today, sis, Truly? Fuck yeah. Oh, here she goes.
Grounded in my love for our country. Just last week, my mother, a first-generation immigrant, got to vote for her daughter for president. Only in America. I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that.
Y'all, the volume is low on their end. It's not me.
I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in. national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, it is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse. It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. Our world is on fire because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel.
I'm trying to fix it. Yeah, I can't hear her either.
But it's also more than that.
It's on their
If we
end.
retreat further, there will be more war, not less. As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American. I sought the honor of being your president. But in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself. And that's a privilege I very much look forward to enjoying. In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. I wish anyone well who would be America's president. Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us. I have always been a conservative.
And they won't let you put closed captions so you can read. Yeah, I can't hear it.
But on this question, as she did on so many others, Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote,
They
"Never
put both
just
headphones
follow
in,
the
see.
crowd. Always make up your own mind." It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing. I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua. I direct them to all Americans, but especially to so many of the women and girls out there who put their faith in our campaign. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for God will be with you wherever you go. In this campaign, I have seen our country's greatness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, America. God bless you.
What the fuck did she say, y'all? I don't even know. It was like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. What the fuck? Well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? What the fuck? Let's see here. You couldn't even hear her. Oh, okay. I found one. It's a replay here, I do believe, that we can hear. Hold on. I got it. I found one. So we can hear her. Like, what the fuck?
Our world is on fire because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is a moral imperative. But it's also more than that. If we retreat further, there will be more war, not less. As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American. I sought the honor of being your president. But in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself. And that's a privilege I very much look forward to enjoying. In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. I wish anyone well who would be America's president. Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us. I have always been a conservative Republican and always supported the Republican nominee. But on this question, as she did on so many others, Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote, "Never just follow the crowd. Always make up your own mind." It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing. I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua. I direct them to all Americans, but especially to so many of the women and girls out there who put their faith in our campaign. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for God will be with you wherever you go. In this campaign, I have seen our country's greatness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, America. God bless you.
Well, we didn't miss nothing, did we? Go Trump. He got the fuck out of there. She was so mad because he won South Carolina. In my opinion, being the president of any country, it's not a woman's job. It's not a woman's place. I don't think, I'm all for women and power or whatever, and that a woman should not be running our country. I'm sorry. In my opinion. It is not a woman's place. Not a woman's place at all. What do y'all think? Y'all agree or am I wrong? I don't know. And I think like other countries and stuff they respect a male more than they would a female president. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I've never heard that, but I don't know. It's not a woman's place. Be kind of like a man in a woman's beauty pageant or something. I don't know. Trump's got this. Everybody knows it. I'm gonna play a. Shit, I didn't mean to do that. Some more things while we're on it. We'll just do a little more here because I was going to do this tonight, but Cher will probably be live, so we'll do a little bit of Trump and American border crisis and now, and then later I'll do my other live, and then we'll do Cher. Let's see what will we start with. Um, Oh, chicken lady. Oh, and you got to send it to me. Right, Robin. I just don't, it's just not for a woman. Hey, Lady Lolo. Good morning, love. How are you?
Filmmaker and journalist Amy Horowitz. Now, former chief of the US Border Patrol has revealed on 60 Minutes just how little the Biden administration cares about protecting Americans from illegal immigrants. Have a look.
I've never had one conversation with the president or the vice president for that matter. And so I was the chief of the Border Patrol. I commanded 21,000 people. That's a problem.
Army, Joe Biden has time to talk to Insta influencers. He's got time to have late night TV hosts hanging out with him and getting ice cream. And of course, as VP, he was talking to Hunter Biden's many foreign business associates, but he could not talk to the chief of the US Border Patrol during the worst immigration crisis the country has seen.
Yeah, he not only didn't talk to the current head of the Border Patrol, he didn't talk to the past head of the Border Patrol either. And not just him, but don't forget, Harris, by the way, is the head. She's the border czar. This is her job. This is what she's supposed to do for a living. But remember, she's also never been to Europe, right? This is the doubling down of the administration on a failed policy. That's not only a failed policy for the country, but it's going to bite him in the behind because this has become one of the most important issues in this election. Yet even though he knows that, even though all the polls are telling him that, for some bizarre reason, he keeps doubling down on this insanity. And by the way, he doesn't have to look very far for another example in the Democratic Party. John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, who, by the way, came in as a left-winger, similar, by the way, to Kristen Sinema, who we all thought she was a Green Party advocate. He came in as a leftist, he has become not only a centrist, maybe even center-right. He has been hawkish on this border issue. He said that the border deal didn't go far enough. And guess what, Rita? He is up by 7% in the polls, while Joe Biden is down by almost 7% in the polls. Maybe he should learn something from someone in his own party. Maybe he should have a stroke. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Bad joke.
It's a bad joke, but you're right. John Fetterman went into hospital and he seems to have emerged a different man, a different politician. It's incredible transformation. And I often find myself agreeing with him. And I remember what he stood for previously when he was running for Pennsylvania, the junior senator there. So here's a revelation. Now let's look at some of the government data. This is from the Biden administration itself. And they're predicting the population of asylum seekers and other migrants is going to surge from 6 million last year to 8 million this September. This is an increase of 167% compared to 5 years ago under Donald Trump. Army, this is going to be the top election issue. There's so many other issues, but I think this is going to be the number one issue. And at the same time, you've got states like California adding to this problem. A new bill introduced in California will allow illegal immigrants to qualify as first home buyers, able to access the state's zero down, no payment home loan scheme, where they can get a loan of up to 20% of the price of a house, with that loan not accruing interest or requiring monthly payments.
I don't know which insanity to start with first, Rita, but let's begin with the 8 million people. 8 million asylum seekers inside the United States. Again, just in the last 5 years. This is not the total number, right? That's 2.5% of the U.S. population, to put it in context, right? And again, what they're trying to do is make it. They have loosened what it takes to become an asylum seeker, right? This is what they've done to be a magnet for people to come to this country. And again, you have to. I think people in Australia don't really, even people in this country, don't fully understand what happens when you cross the border, and not when you get through and are not caught. When you are actually caught, they didn't give you a notice for when to come back, which could be up to 10 years from that day. Now, do they come back? Of course they're not going to come back. Why would they come back? And so, of course, yeah, they could be technically asylum seekers, but they're not going to be deported, not under this administration, for sure. And talking about the home loan they're giving, this is a home loan, to be clear. This is not a home loan given just to illegal immigrants. It's a home loan that is essentially free of interest to anybody who can't afford a home, which, by the way, in of itself just doesn't make any economic sense for a state like California, but let's leave that aside. But they're allowing illegals to be part of this scheme. It is unbelievable to me, even for a state like California. Yet you want to ask why they're coming across the country. It's not because, like they say, the Biden administration, because of climate change, right? They're doing it because, of course, wouldn't you want to go to a place you can get a free home loan? Of course you would. That's what's bringing them here. That's why we have 8 million asylum seekers.
Let's bring in Sean Hannity. Sean, good to have you with us. You know, it is remarkable, Sean, on this Super Tuesday, when you look back over the last several years and all of the times that many, many people looked at this situation and did not see the incredible resilience of Donald Trump, of this political figure, and his extraordinary commitment to doing this over again, despite the fact that every arrow in the quiver had been thrown and fired at him over and over and over, Sean.
You know, the term I use, and I know I repeat myself, but I think it bears repeating, is we're really watching history. Let me start there. But Donald Trump defies all conventional political gravity. None of the rules that we thought would apply to any presidential candidate apply to him. And we see that he gets indicted, his poll numbers go up. He gets arraigned, his poll numbers go up. He gets a mugshot, his poll numbers go up. The more they attack him, the more he seems to galvanize support around the country. What's fascinating, and I know you've gone over a lot of polls tonight, one that really stood out to me was 10% of Biden voters are now voting for Donald Trump. Look, you have the New York Times Siena poll, you have the Fox News poll, you have the Wall Street Journal poll, CBS, he beat the 50% threshold. And then you look at Gallup, he's at 38%, an approval rating that is near record low for an incumbent president. Very difficult to overcome. You look at the ABC poll, you've got 86% of Americans thinking that he's not strong enough cognitively to be president. He's too old. That shows up in pretty much every poll. Then you've got to look historically. What do we always look at in election years? What drives elections? What drives people to the polls? Usually it is peace and prosperity. Okay, well, how are things looking around the world? We've got war in Europe. We've got war in the Middle East. We have a president seemingly in conflict with our number one ally in the Middle East, that, of course, being Israel. On the other hand, he's done everything he can do to turn a blind eye to the Iranians selling oil, some $90 to $100 billion worth, and, of course, offering $6 billion in a trade for hostages, allowing a payment from Iraq for $10 billion. That's insanity to me. So then you go to the economic front. We now are living in an America where 60% of our fellow Americans, and I've been there early in my adult life, it's not a fun place to be, are living paycheck to paycheck. And many people are putting bare necessities on high interest credit cards. It is a very tough time. For all the talk for the many months about Bidenomics, and we suspect and we keep hearing leaks that the president will talk a lot about corporate greed and shrinkflation in his State of the Union address. They have tried that message, and he is way upside down on the economy. People do not feel that they were better off than they were 4 years ago. There's so much anecdotal evidence that really points to an opportunity for President Trump to really make history in 244 days. That will come very fast. That will happen very fast. It's going to be fascinating. Let me throw a few polls at you if you don't mind. I'll put my glasses on. Look, if you look at climate change, you have most Americans, by an overwhelming majority, think Joe's policies have mostly failed. Americans don't want EVs thrown at them. They would like their gas-powered vehicles. They don't want their stoves taken away, their refrigerators taken away, and they don't want their air conditioners taken away. Okay, so he's not even doing well on that. If you look demographically, what do we see? We see African Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, suburban women in larger and larger numbers. All of these demographics comprise a very large part of the Democratic coalition or the Democratic base. Donald Trump, as of right now today, 244 days out, is doing very well with those constituencies. Look at Donald Trump with African Americans. Look at the poll. All demographics, he's at 28% with African Americans. That's massive. If you look further, working class Americans, 58% of them believe Joe Biden's policies have failed. Has he improved our image on the world stage? 61% of Americans give him a fail grade. On the economy, 61% give Joe Biden a big F. Do you feel more safe and secure? 63% think Joe Biden's policies have failed. Unifying the country, 69% think he's failed. And on the number one issue that we have all covered from Iowa onward, seems to be immigration, and you have a whopping 71% of Americans that did not buy the 3 years of lying that the border is secure and the border is closed. Now, as of tonight, this is now a new race. This is now President Trump. He will win the Republican nomination. He will have an opportunity to become the 47th president of the United States. And I believe these are the policies, these are the issues that will define what happens 244 days from now.
Sean, a couple of things. Karl Rove was talking about how the party needs to come together and unify, and he brought out his whiteboard and pointed to all these states and all the people voting for Nikki Haley, some of whom said they had a problem with Donald Trump and weren't going to vote for them. I pushed back and said in a general election, which is going to happen very soon, whether he clinches March 12th or March 19th, he's going to be the Republican nominee. It then is a binary choice. And so to your point, how people felt in the Trump administration about the economy, about the border, about world affairs, do you think that those people voting for Nikki Haley, Republicans, will come home in a general election when it is a binary choice?
I think most of them will, not all of them. But let's go back to one number that really popped to me, and that was 10% of 2020 Joe Biden voters. They are saying publicly to pollsters they're going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024. That's how dissatisfied they are. Now, that presents a challenge to the president. I would say be magnanimous in victory tonight. Look, running for president is really hard. Every single person over all the years that I've done this, and by the way, I love nights like tonight. Don't you guys love these nights?
We do.
I will be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and still watching our coverage. And if it's a replay, I'll be watching that too. And it's just a fascinating process to me. And so I think, yeah, on the other side of that coin, you can look, I would say, okay, some of the demographics that are part of the Democratic coalition, I think some of them will go home. But if Donald Trump could even hold 20% of that number that he's showing now in an increase, that would be enough to be a significant win come November 5th. On the other side, I do think that the president has an opportunity to unite the party. And I think the message has to be there are more things that unite us than divide us. We agree on border. We agree on law and order. We agree on energy independence. We agree on peace through strength. We agree that Joe Biden's policies have failed. We believe that the American people deserve better. And maybe the president at some point will reach out to all of his primary opponents and invite them to join him and help him even to the extent that they're willing to, for the sake of the American people, unite around an agenda that will help our economy, help America on the world stage, bring us more prosperity, bring peace around the world, and also put America safe. And please secure our borders. Please get our budget under control. We cannot spend like this, and we cannot have tens of thousands of people from China, Russia, Iran, Syria, Egypt, and Afghanistan coming into this country without being vetted. That is the biggest national security threat I think we've ever faced.
Sean, just real quickly, if, as it clearly looks right now, Donald Trump becomes the nominee for the GOP, how much does that galvanize? Just watching some of the other coverage earlier tonight, people very, very deeply unhappy, upset that this is where we are 4 years later. And how much does that energize and galvanize the opposition that has come after this former president so vociferously and so nonstop for all these years, Sean?
I honestly, at this point, I don't think there's anything left to throw at the guy.
Right.
They have thrown everything in the kitchen sink at him, and he's still standing. And he's not only standing, he's standing strong. Look, I have a lot of good things to say about a lot of his primary opponents. I really do. And I respect all of them. Anybody that steps into that arena, it is a blood sport. I think you both know that I'm into mixed martial arts. You step into the octagon, I give you full respect. It is just very hard, and none of them suspect that they're going to lose. However, there comes a point, why did you get into the race? If you got into the race because you believe in the dream that is America, you believe it's our duty and obligation to hand off this country better than we inherited it, then I think that is a galvanizing force that could transcend all politics. And I would urge everybody that ran, and President Trump, they don't have to be best friends, but they can agree on the fundamentals that certainly would reverse the downward trend that Joe Biden has taken the country in. And by the way, I don't even think that he knows today is Tuesday. And that's a problem for this country. And I don't say that flippantly. He has not had, if you observe like we do, what I would call a clean event in months, meaning that he's not mumbling, bumbling, stumbling, not knowing whether to exit stage left or stage right. You've got teams of people, letting him go up the baby stairs of Air Force One because he's not strong enough physically to get up the big boy stairs. We've got a real problem. China's watching, Russia's watching, Iran is watching, North Korea is watching. This world is a dangerous place, and I think things will get really out of control if we don't change course in November.
John, last thing, ahead of the midterms, we looked at polls and we thought this is going to be potentially a blowout for Republicans as you looked at the issue of immigration, as you looked at crime, as you looked at the economy. But then the Democrats went with a threat to democracy and obviously played on the issue of abortion very heavily in races across the country. I talked to Britt Hume earlier. He said he can't remember polls that were this upside down on a lot of issues for the current president. But should we have that caveat? Because clearly they're going with threat to democracy and going with abortion heavily as we look at these polls today, and then you fast forward to the general election.
Both of you asking great questions tonight. I got to give you credit. I will say this. We already know what the Democratic playbook is going to be. It's going to be democracy. And it's kind of ironic. The people that are doing that are the very people that would unilaterally allow one politician to take a candidate off the ballot for the reason of insurrection, something Donald Trump has never been tried, never been even tried with, or even there's never been a case brought against him on it, never mind convicted of it. So you want to talk about a threat to democracy? I would argue that is a threat to democracy. But, you know, to your broader point, Brett, I will tell you, they're going to run on democracy. They're going to run on January 6th. They're going to run on the issue of abortion. I would argue, and I think I'm right, that in 22, Republicans were not prepared for how the Democrats would demagogue the issue of abortion. And I understand people have very strong convictions. However, if you want to look at it strictly from a political point of view, and I believe in the sanctity of life, but I understand that the country is not where I am. Politically, the country is at probably where Dobbs was at 15 weeks. Republicans need to understand that. If they pick somebody like they did in 22, like Doug Mastriano, who made no exceptions for rape, incest of the mother's life, I think that is a mistake. They've got to have an answer for the millions and millions of dollars that will be spent on ads about abortion. I was glad to see President Trump come out quickly on the issue of IVF and with a very strong statement supporting it. And the next thing is Republicans, then it's going to be the other playbook, which is Republicans are racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic. They want dirty air and water, transphobic, and they want to kill grandma and grandpa. So that will be their playbook. That's all they've got, because they can't run on one thing, Brett and Martha. They can't run on, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Well, Sean, as always, we appreciate it. Thanks for...
Lady Lolo, right? I don't listen to Jody at all. You're welcome, Lady Lolo. Okay. Now over here, see what's this one I was gonna play. This one was 2 weeks ago, but I think it's I wanted to watch it with you all.
What is it that excites you about Donald Trump?
You know, honestly, it's just because we really don't have another candidate that's better. None at all. He's done more for this country than any other president has in decades. And
in terms of what? Can you be specific?
He didn't get us involved in bullshit wars that we don't belong in. We don't belong over there. We need everybody we got home.
What do you think he should do if he's president again about Israel and Palestine?
He's going to pull everybody out. We don't belong over there. It's not our problem. But we need to worry more about what's going on here than over there.
But we really don't have soldiers. That Israel's fighting this against Hamas.
We need to stop giving them money too. We need to stop giving Ukraine money. They're a bunch of Nazis over there. If you guys even knew the real story about what's going on over there, it's sickening.
Do you think that Biden has made it worse in Israel and Palestine?
He has made absolutely everything around the world worse, not just our country, around the entire world.
Is there anything that Donald Trump could do now to lose your support for president?
Absolutely not.
I mean, what if he is convicted of these crimes?
If he's convicted of these crimes, then he's convicted. But
that doesn't bother you, though?
It does not bother me at all, no.
What about what he said the other day about NATO?
Absolutely.
You agree that we should support Putin if he goes into another NATO country?
Absolutely. If they don't pay, we don't back them up.
And even like support Putin who's going in and invading?
Absolutely.
But why support Putin and not support Ukraine and not support Israel or Palestine
because now? Putin's real to everybody's face. He's not a bull like half these other government officials around the world. These elite guys that run everything and have all of our government officials as a puppet, puppets. That's what they all are.
Supporting the Russian president is something that has not been American tradition, to say the least. To do that seems extreme to a lot of people. Why does it not to you?
To me, when you saw Trump and president, Korea backed down, Russia backed down, everybody backed down. There was peace everywhere. The second Biden got into office, war was talked about everywhere. Now we're at a point where they're talking about World War III. Now we got people coming in. We have actual terrorists coming through our border into our country, right in front of Biden's face, and he's doing nothing about it. He can bring all of his troops over here all he wants, because that's what they are. All these immigrants coming in through the border, all the men, they're all military. It's been noted and documented. He's bringing people over here to start and get votes, to lock up every patriot, to make it so that we can't even organize as a group anymore.
What is your group? Because I see the D for Detroit Tigers out there. What?
We're Proud Boys. We don't hide from anywhere, anybody. We're out here. We have no reason to hide. But the second they decide they want to try and pass this bill, they're taking a direct shot at the Constitution when they do that. And when they do that, they're doing that to every American, including the police, National Guard, everybody. You don't want to take on your own country. We're at that tipping point right now between the U.S. citizens and our government where they're treading a very thin line. with a lot of people. A lot of people. People that are way bigger than anybody else that is out here right now, including us.
So where's that happening? Like, where, for people who aren't aware of that, where would they feel it or know it?
Oh, they're not going to feel it. They won't feel it until it actually happens. When the government decides they want to cross that line, they'll find out.
And you think it's close?
Depends on how this election goes.
What if Donald Trump were to lose? If he were to lose again, what would that mean?
This country would go to complete
But I mean, in predictive analysis,
predictive analysis, there's going to be a lot of riots everywhere again. I mean, you've got even Joe Biden supporters turning their backs on him.
If the election result is the same as last time and Joe Biden wins again and Donald Trump loses, your predictive analysis is that there will be riots once again. And
yes, there will be. I guarantee it.
And what would that mean for the country?
That would mean everybody's starting to see through the government's bullshit. Maybe we can all finally get together instead of being divided and let them know that this is our country, not theirs.
Do you think that Donald Trump was more of a uniter or a divider or not?
He was a uniter, 100%. Absolutely.
He said he's going to pardon all those who were convicted of felonies in January 6th. Do you support that?
Do I support the feds going in and wearing fake colors and saying that they were this and they were that? No, I don't.
No, I'm supporting the pardon I'm talking about.
We got guys locked up in jail for no reason. For no reason whatsoever. The police walked everybody through there. Why are you putting people in jail when the police are walking people through there? They call them J6ers. They're not J6ers. The people that incited all this and got people shot was our own feds, the FBI, CIA, the government plants. That's what they are. I've been informed of the New World Order movement since I was a kid. So this is something that I have always known was coming.
And you feel it imminent now?
Absolutely.
Do come in, take a seat. Welcome to Planet America. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Chaz Leccidella.
What's happening this week with Super Tuesday primaries and what...
That's not what I wanted to play next there. Let's see. This might not be just blah blah for y'all, but it's just some things I say. Y'all know how I like to listen with you all. And I like to do stuff dogging Biden's ass.
Joining us now, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Okay, Congressman, sit tight. We're going to show this press pool camera shot that was accidentally captured on video. The president has been using a gigantic teleprompter with very large typeface that he still struggles to read. Stick on that shot. This is when he went to the border. You're going to be at the Thursday State of the Union address. How long do you expect the president's address to last? I mean, he's been going at about an hour and 5 minutes or so. Trump, it goes at about an hour and 20 minutes. So what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, certainly President Biden's stamina is weaker. His cognitive ability has been deteriorating. And it's noticeable not just to people like you and I. It's noticeable to the world. It's noticeable to the public. And, you know, who knows how long he'll go. My guess is they're going to try to prime him up and get him ready to go to take about an hour. That's what I would expect him to go. I wouldn't expect him to go much further than that. I don't think he's capable of going much further than that. And even with that big print, Liz, you're going to hear some word salad stuff from time to time because he's incapable of actually staying focused, and he's also incapable of staying on script.
You know, AP North poll, about 6 in 10 said they're not very or not at all confident in the president's mental capability to serve another term. New York Times Siena poll, Biden is losing ground with key Democrat constituencies: women, black voters, Hispanic voters, voters under 30, workers without college degrees. What do you think?
Well, certainly part of it is his mental capacity or the challenges that he has. I mean, we all see it. We all feel that. And by the way, we feel that he's not actually in charge. I can't tell you how many people come up and tell me who's really running the country, and it's his cabinet. They enjoy the fiefdoms. But beyond that, I mean, it's just as the previous report was, you know, the economy remains bad. He tells you that the economy is good. So he's not telling the truth. I mean, I just paid $2 more a gallon last night for gas than I paid when Trump was in. You can't go to the grocery store. I'm still paying $3.5, $4.5 for a loaf of bread. Those are the things we all feel. And then you add that to the questions about his cognitive ability. And I just think it's normal for people, Americans in particular, because we're not stupid, to say, this guy's not in charge. Who is in charge? And why are things so bad?
Let's watch Hillary Clinton. You're going to hear the media say, you know what, just accept it. Joe Biden is old. You're going to watch the president saying he's being told to actually stand on a pre-designated mark at events. He's told to stand at these events. You're going to see him holding note cards too. You see that increasingly in private events as well with donors. Democrat donors have been raising concerns about this. Watch this.
Somebody the other day said to me, Zerlina, well, but Joe Biden's old. I said, you know what? Joe Biden is old. Let's go ahead and accept the reality. Joe Biden is old.
Right now, we're going to see if we can clear that up.
We appreciate that. Unfortunately, he can't get any younger, so there's not that much that they can do about it.
Trump headed to Eagle Pass, and Biden headed to Brownsville. It was Cassidy versus the Sundown Kid. And Biden was fired up.
We're the United States of America.
Nailed it. He knew exactly where we are. Yes. He knew what country we were in. Bang, boom. This is the United States of America.
That was Jon Stewart there. Your reaction, Congressman?
Well, as funny as that is, it's also very sad, but I think it's true. I mean, the good news is he found his mark. He knew where we were, but I'm not sure what else he knows about policy, what's going on. And when I hear rumors coming out of the White House, it's always that his cabinet officials are around him. I mean, how about this? Secretary Austin doesn't even talk to him on a daily basis. And quite frankly, why would he? And so I think it's something we should all be concerned about, for sure, for sure.
Congressman Biggs, thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Liz.
Let's go straight to Carrie Kupacker-Bond, Fox News legal editor and former counselor to Attorney General Bill Barr. So, Carrie, first of all, what does this do for those impending cases coming up? Immunity. And you need at least 5 on the U.S. Supreme Court for Trump.
It's unclear what the Supreme Court's going to do here. To be honest, Harris, I was surprised that they even took it up at all. They don't have to. They have full discretion. The fact that the Supreme Court takes up less than 1% of the petitions submitted to them each year, and they chose to pick up this one, is significant. However, the lower court, the D.C. Federal Appeals Court, really rejected Trump's immunity argument in a pretty sweeping way. So it's unclear if the Supreme Court is willing to strike that down in its entirety, if they're going to affirm it, or if they're going to split the baby somehow. But I would expect to see some nuanced arguments from the Supreme Court.
So I'm curious, now that you set it up that way, like, well, why did the U.S. Supreme Court take it?
And that's what everyone wants to know. And, Harris, we don't know who decided to vote yes to take it up. You only need 4 yes votes to take a Supreme Court case up. So if we knew who those 4 justices were, it might give us a better sense of where their heads are at with respect to this issue. But we really just don't know.
All right. A full-blown liberal media meltdown. You may have seen it after the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's ballot eligibility. So that was reaction to his victory at the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday. Let's watch.
And frankly, gives him a way out of being held accountable at the ballot box.
Unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong. They're not doing their job on a lot of these big issues.
A refusal to hold this man accountable and those folk who engaged in insurrection.
It just goes against what our judicial system should be about.
Donald Trump, I believe, is a danger to American democracy.
He can still be the president of the United States. And I thought that the 14th Amendment and our framers knew better.
Well, she's an attorney, and she's saying that. Interesting. Some headlines, though, praise the decision. One shows that democracy is not partisan. Another declares Supreme Court 9, lawfare 8. And reality bites, Democrats. Courts won't save them from Trump. So, Carrie, as I come back to you, I just want to catch the journalist there, Dana Bash, said that the Supreme Court is not doing its job. What would her argument for that be?
It's unclear to me because it was particularly significant that the court chose to speak in a per curiam opinion, which means they spoke with one voice, which is why Amy Coney Barrett in her concurrence said, let this be a clear message to all Americans. This is where we've landed. And it makes sense, Harris. The idea that a state could unilaterally disenfranchise millions of voters across the country, removing from the ballot the choice of candidate from individual people, just defies democracy. And you'd think that everyone would be on the same page on this, whether you like Donald Trump or not. And yet the reaction is troubling. And frankly, that reaction says a lot more about where we're at in the state of this country than I think most other things do.
Real quickly, Democrats now have this scheme that they're going to use the federal government now to try to keep him off the ballot.
They do, and it's interesting because the opinion raises questions about Congress's role. Certainly, we know that Congress has a remedial role because the plain text of the Constitution speaks to this. Only Congress can undisqualify someone, but the question is, well, who disqualifies them? Does it mean that Congress passes a law? And that was unclear in the opinion. I will say, though, Harris, the Supreme Court was pretty clear, and I just want to read this one sentence when they talk about if Donald Trump, and it's clear that they're saying, look, if Donald Trump wins, and there's an effort to overturn that election, here's what's going to happen. The disruption would be all the more acute and would nullify the votes of millions and change the election result if Section 3 enforcement were attempted after the nation has voted. And here's the key sentence that everyone should pay attention to here. Nothing in the Constitution requires that we endure such chaos, arriving at any time or different times up to and perhaps beyond the inauguration.
Wow. I do want to point this out. Gallup poll most recently found that immigration, number one, we know that coming out of the primaries, right, for Americans across the country, irrespective of party. Number two, above the economy, above inflation, Gallup, trust in government. And this is part of government. I mean, the justice. Wow. Okay, we are awaiting another big ruling in Georgia, and a judge says he will rule in the next 2 weeks on the misconduct claims against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Whew, the story is so steamy. She and her entire office could be disqualified from Georgia's election meddling case against Trump, and there may be an additional bombshell to throw in. A witness against Fani Willis has popped. A new filing claims a prosecutor named Cindy Lee Yeager overheard a phone call between Willis and Terrence Bradley, her prosecutor Paramore's former attorney. That's what I call Nathan Wade, because he was married when he and Fani Willis were, entangled. And this is a quote. Ms. Yeager heard District Attorney Willis tell Mr. Bradley, they are coming for us. You don't need to talk to them about anything about us. How in the world do you have a conversation like that and be overheard?
And what's even more interesting is that the co-defendant who filed this, I think just yesterday, said that this prosecutor would be willing to testify under oath that Bradley, the former divorce lawyer, the one that we saw last week on the stand, who kept saying, I don't recall all of these things, that she is willing to testify under oath that he told her directly that this relationship began long before what both Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade represented to the court, which would be a big problem, Harris, because it goes again to the credibility of Bradley in terms of impeaching the witness. And, the judge is going to have to contend with that as well.
Yeah, but I mean, even with a person that she formerly had hired, and then she stayed in the woman's condominium, rented that townhome condo, whatever it was, that witness who said, yeah, the relationship started before they said it did. I mean, you're discrediting two people's testimony under oath, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. Wow. Always great to have you. Thank you. I'm telling you, that story just gets more interesting by the minute.
It does.
Unbelievable.
Hey, everyone.
You are an attorney. Of course, we booked you to talk about something else, but then the news just broke. Nikki Haley is going to drop out today at 10 o'clock this morning. You'll see her live here on Fox. She's not going to...
Shit, bear with me, you all. I'm trying to plug up my laptop. I don't know what I got on. Do y'all think Trump's going to win? See, I can't remember. I want to play this. I don't know. Let's see here. How come I can never find what I want to play? Oh, here's something there. Because Joe Biden's a piece of freaking shit. That's what he is. I think you... Shit, here I was talking and muted. The hell. But yeah, I agree, Chicken Lady, and If he don't win too, this country's fucked. Bye-bye, America. We're going to have riots, all kinds of fucking shit. You know what I mean? And I think other countries might come in and try to invade us and shit, you know? We're bye-bye, America if he don't, but I think he will. I really think Trump's got this. The only way they can get rid of him is assassinating, in my opinion.
Without our permission, are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced that we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we will make no progress on dealing with the millions of illegal immigrants who are here now. When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration, which the American people overwhelmingly oppose. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong.
Interesting, Mr. Chuck Schumer. He's not the only one.
I think we should have strong border security. It doesn't make sense for us to allow hundreds of thousands of people coming through our borders without us knowing who they are. Oftentimes in very hazardous situations and unmonitored situations that could do us long-term damage.
Oh, so you don't agree with it either, Obama. And you admit that it could cause us some serious harm. They aren't the only ones that have said that before either. Someone you guys may recognize recently said the same thing.
At least I, as a Democrat, am willing and eager to go stronger than the border deal that was here. It might be actually appropriate given the circumstance here.
Going stronger, going with a stronger border deal. Yeah, because that one that you guys proposed, Senator Fetterman, was pretty darn weak. Wasn't really a border security bill at all, if I do say so myself. It was more of a, hey, let's legalize this stuff, what we're doing, so Trump can't stop it. That's what it seemed like to me, but I digress. We're going to be talking about the border crisis today, as I'm sure you guys could have guessed from those first few clips. But first, we're going to get into a ad that is from Western Lensman. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Shout out to you, brother or sister or group. I'm not exactly sure, but wanted to give this individual a shout out. All right. That's where this clip comes from. And it's a ad in favor of Trump. And yeah, you guys have to see it. It's absolutely incredible. Like, share, comment, and hit that subscribe button if you are new. And let's dive in.
I would, in fact, make sure we immediately surge to the border. All those people surge to the border, surge to the border.
More than 7 million people, that's how many foreigners have entered this country without permission or documentation.
The Venezuelan government is purposely freeing inmates, including some convicted of murder, rape, and those criminals are now entering the U.S. through our southern border.
We are using American tax dollars to ship children into known prostitution.
Children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network, bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
New details in the murder of Laken Riley. It's sparking massive outrage after her alleged killer was in the country illegally.
A Pasadena girl was found sexually assaulted and strangled.
An undocumented migrant illegally crossed into the United States.
An illegal immigrant charged in a hit and run that killed a 10-year-old boy. The shooting that left a 2-year-old boy dead. This suspect was in the country illegally.
I caution against conflating immigration and crime. The data demonstrates that the two are not connected.
It is so obvious to me why it feels so dark right now, and that is because we lost one of the brightest lights that there's ever been.
On Monday evening, the sunshine wasn't the only thing lighting up the clear blue sky, gold balloons, honoring the life of 10-year-old Alex Wise Jr.
A line of people from across the community hugging a father going through unimaginable pain.
Hard to imagine the grief that this young mom is going through, seeing her own child killed right in front of her.
How did our baby die?
Surge to the border.
Yeah, Western Lensman, you can see the name right there. Shout out to him. Appreciate you. Incredible video, right? Incredible. This stuff has gotten out of hand, man. It really has. You know, I really couldn't. You know, I really do feel for those parents, man. Like I'm over here stuttering because it's like, come on, like disgusting stuff, man. I'll say that. And when you got illegal immigrants pulling up to a city council meeting demanding support, you got some problems.
Seattle City Council disrupted as asylum seekers and their supporters once again pleaded for support. Council President Sarah Nelson saying there are limited resources here.
I don't really want to participate in a conversation that should be had with county leaders, state leaders, federal leaders.
Council ultimately took a break from the meeting in the middle of chants from protesters yelling on behalf of the refugees. At one point, Councilmember Kathy Moore requested that SPD take action.
The request that we have police response. Our physical safety is being threatened by the actions of the demonstrators outside banging on the windows.
Eventually, arrests were made. It's the second time in 2 months that the group from Latin America has called upon Seattle leaders to fund their temporary housing.
Flying the flag from which you came, the place where you allegedly fled to seek asylum here in America because it was so terrible back there, but you're still flying the flag here. And you have the nerve to demand that we pay for your life. It's ridiculous, man. But it gets even crazier than that, guys. It really does. Check out this clip of what like you literally cannot make this stuff up. You guys remember when Trump said that some of these countries aren't sending their best people? He wasn't lying. And here's more proof that one of those countries knows that they didn't send their best people because of what they did. Now they tried to blame it on something else, but just check this out.
Venezuela has stopped accepting deportation flights from the U.S. and Mexico after a deal between the nations fell apart. Those flights had been seen as a successful way to try to stem the flow of migrants from Venezuela. Correspondent Ali Bradley is live along the Arizona border.
You heard that correctly. Venezuela has started denying, or has been denying, deportation flights. So apparently there's been some flights that have been sending some Venezuelans back to Venezuela, and Venezuela's like, we're not taking them back. You keep them. Our deal fell apart, so you keep them. Like, what? See, listen, we ain't playing this game. I'm sending them back to where they came from. Hey, and if you want to leave them on this tarmac, right? If you want to leave them at this airport where I'm bringing them to, that's on you. But they're not coming back with me. That's what I'm saying as a president. I brought them back to their land, back to their home. All right? They're all yours now. I'm out. Like, bro, America has become an absolute joke at this point. An absolute joke. You gonna tell me that I can't bring these people back to where they came from and I gotta take them back to where they shouldn't be? Absolute joke under Biden. But of course, as all Democrats always do, they never take accountability for their actions. They've got to blame somebody else.
Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor's an eagle pass today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know. It's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Unless you remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people.
Hold on, wait. So you need Trump to get your job done? Trump's not even in office. Trump's this big bad criminal. You want to do business with Trump? You need Trump to get it done. You just said it, Joe. Those aren't my words. Those are yours. So if you can't do it by yourself, then why don't you just step aside and let Trump take over your position and he'll get it done himself? How about that? Oh, man, as they always do, they blame Trump. But in reality, it's all his fault. He's even admitted to it before. Check it out.
Mr. Vice President, under the Trump administration, asylum has virtually ended. ICE detention centers are practically empty. Your new plan calls for reversing President Trump's harsh plan. But won't that restart a brand new border crisis? I mean, what would you do with all those people in camps now waiting in Mexico?
It will if we don't do it well. We don't reach out to the communities that are willing to, the charitable communities that will come in and help. And in addition to us spending millions of dollars providing for access for judges, access for asylum folks to be on the border, to move quickly. Because if we just say, okay, all done, I've withdrawn the order, you're going to have a crisis on the other side of the border as well.
So you admitted that this is all your fault. Even Mayorkas was bragging about getting rid of Trump's policies, which you just heard Biden agree that Trump had stopped all of this. You just heard him say that, right? Well, you know what the Biden administration did? Got rid of all the policies that Trump had regarding the border.
And I'd like to understand from you what Trump-era immigration policies have been banned, ended, reversed, and if any investigations are underway by you.
So we have rescinded so many Trump immigration policies, it would take so much time to list them.
It would take a whole lot of time to list them because you've rescinded all of them. Interesting. And you know what's also interesting? I came across this clip, while putting this video together. And it says a lot.
First of all, let me say that we don't use the term illegal immigrants. I actually issued a policy in the Department of Homeland Security. We use the term non-citizen to respect the dignity of every individual as a preliminary matter. Second.
So you care more about terminology than you do the safety of American citizens. Right. Interesting. So as you saw there, they both admitted to getting rid of Trump's closed border policies, but now they will try to spin it to blame Trump for the open border, when in reality, Trump's border was closed. Trump had it locked down. You heard Biden admit to it himself. Don't you just love the internet? Don't you love it? And cameras, right? Everybody's got them, and these videos live on forever. So we can just pull them up when they start their lying once again, which we all know they're going to do it again on something else, with something else. Even Chuck Schumer himself, who you guys heard at the very beginning of the video, which I'll play again, actually, because, I mean, that's incredible, you know?
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens.
Oh, well, Mayorkas said they are illegal aliens. You can't make this stuff up, man. I love it. I love it. Share this video.
I agree, Chicken Lady. This is gonna be a wild. It's gonna be a wild time, ain't it? I think. I just pray for Trump. I worry about him, like his safety for real, because I hate it. Oh yeah, Trump's gonna spill it all. I guarantee it. He already is. That's why they don't want him there. But he's got like Elon Musk and all kinds of people on his side, though. I don't know, though. Still, I pray for him.
Newly obtained White House records reveal the Biden administration admitted to flying hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants into the country. Now, those records were obtained by the Center for Immigration Studies.
I don't know what the fuck just happened there. The hell? Oh, that was crazy.
Is through a FOIA lawsuit, and they show that over 320,000 migrants were flown over the border using Biden's CBP-1 app. However, in responding to that info request, listen to this. The administration refused to reveal just which U.S. airports those migrants landed at. At the Center for Immigration Studies writes, quote, "The public can't know the receiving airports because those hundreds of thousands of CBP authorized arrivals have created such operational vulnerabilities at airports that bad actors could undermine law enforcement efforts to secure the United States border if they even knew the volume of CBP-1 traffic processed at each port of entry." Frightening is an understatement. And Elon Musk weighing in, saying this, quote, "This administration is both importing voters and creating a national security threat from unvetted illegal immigrants. It is highly probable that the groundwork is being laid for something far worse than 9/11. He writes, just a matter of time. Hemmer.
What was wrong about that last one there? I remember it was White Plains, New York, when the first flights started coming in. I just looked it up. It was October 2021. Those were underage migrants who were down the border in Texas that were flown up to White Plains. You remember the outrage there, and this was done under the cover of night. Everybody thought, what's going up out there? The Center for Immigration Studies took a look at this. They think it's legally dubious that you'd be able to do this, fly from another country up here. But in all likelihood, it's Venezuela, because that's where the app is being used a lot, and perhaps Cuba as well. There's a few other countries that were listed here: Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, Ecuador. I said a few. El Salvador, on and on the list goes. They should tell us where they're coming from, and they should tell us where they're going now.
That's right. And there were questions about, remember, the actual ages of those underage migrants, because many of them were posing as juveniles. And in fact, we learned were actually on certain recidivist lists that shouldn't be there. The whole question, to Bill's point, is that, all right, so we know a handful of where they're from. Where are they going? Where are they now? And why are American citizens not being told? Why are these towns not being told until a flood just comes undernight and undermines everything?
Well, can I just say thank you, Elon? I totally agree with everything you said in your tweet. But
You know, I mean, I've heard Democrats try to make the argument of, oh, illegal aliens don't commit crimes at a higher rate than native-born Americans. But are you not increasing the odds when you're letting well, first of all, I don't believe that because they're already breaking the law in coming here or taking advantage of our system. Exactly. But, you know, you're increasing the odds when you're letting millions of people enter into the United States, also a record number on the terror watch list as well. So you're of course, increasing the odds. And I think the reason why we're seeing all this happen is something that Biden's AG, Merrick Garland, said the other day. And he said that voter ID requirements and restrictions in ballot boxes are discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary. So you're simultaneously allowing millions of people to enter into the United States, newcomers, as Joe Biden says it, while also saying you want to get rid of voter ID requirements. You do the math.
Yeah, well, look, a new way to get around a checkpoint. You can come in by air. And the fact that they're unvetted is exactly what they're doing. They're coming in illegally then, because if you're legal and you're going to a checkpoint, you got to, albeit it's not enough vetting, but at least some approach is tried at that point. But if you're coming this way, no. And you know who first alerted me to this? It was toward the beginning of Biden's administration. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee said, Harris, I've got a couple pictures. There are these flights that are landing with kids in the middle of the night in my state of Tennessee. They are so practiced at doing this. I wonder now, though, that Haiti has completely fallen to the hands of lawlessness, if they'll be helping out Haiti. You see, those people actually, at this point, have a reason for asylum. I can't promise you, though, they'd vote for you. I don't know. You'd have to talk with each of them. So Biden, don't insult anybody by telling them that just because you flew the black people here, if you choose to do that, they'll vote for you. But my question is, why the countries that are on that list? The lawlessness in Venezuela is heart disturbing. I mean, is there a reason for asylum for them? You've already said 500,000 can have visas. I think we need to know now the details, because he's practiced at this. His administration is with flying these kids around.
That's right. And those ghost flights, this is in addition to that. And to your point about Venezuela, we know that the organized crime, the organized gang unit activity, the narco cartels are thriving right now on a human smuggling and a concerted effort to push those Venezuelans across the border of certain dubious nature and intents. Like the questions are massive, but we can see the result. The writing's on the wall. Elon Musk said it, and we know what's happening to our cities that are being depleted of all resources and safety.
So you make a really good point. Those ghost flights are the flights with those minors. We learned about these family reunification flights by the Center of Immigration Studies, by a FOIA request, a separate flight program. I bring this up because a FOIA request from a private organization figured this out. There's so much secrecy on the border. I believe one day we'll look back and we will see that the Friday number dumps of illegal immigrants. We'll look back and see the emergency intake facilities that were so opaque, kids eating raw chicken feathers, kids on suicide watch lists. We will learn a lot if reporters do their digging, if more FOIA requests come. And then finally, the last point is the parking garages in Brownsville where illegal immigrants were being processed through. That's just a little we learned from reporters doing digging. Imagine if all the press, all the liberal press, did the digging.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg. And remember this from a president who promised transparency in government. More outnumbered in just a moment. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and
I think they're doing the absolute right thing by standing their ground. They have every right to defend the sovereignty of their state.
The one who has taken action to deal with this, while House Republicans do not.
If Joe Biden federalizes our National Guard, that would be the biggest political blunder.
President Biden is considering an executive action to restrict migrants' ability to seek asylum after they illegally cross the border. Would you support that?
Meanwhile, President Biden and former President Trump both making trips to the Texas border this week, same day. Trump will head to Eagle Pass, where there is a problem, as Biden visits Brownsville.
Both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are headed to the U.S.-Mexico border Thursday. Their dueling events come as the race for the 2024 presidential election ramps up, setting up a showdown over immigration, with less than 9 months to go before voters head to the polls. Republicans have been critical of the Biden administration's handling of migrants crossing into the United States.
An open border is the Biden border policy. Full stop.
That has been their policy. But Democrats say it's Republicans who are to blame.
The Republican Party is responsible today now for the conditions that persist because of their unwillingness to work with this president who went farther than any Democratic president in my lifetime on a comprehensive package.
President Biden last visited the border in January 2023. The White House says Thursday the president will, quote, discuss the urgent need to pass the Senate bipartisan border security agreement, the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border in decades. But the president's plan ties border security measures to aid for Ukraine and Israel, a deal that House Speaker Mike Johnson says doesn't go far enough on border security and will never see the light of day in his chamber.
Folks, doing nothing is not an option.
The president is reportedly considering using executive authority to restrict migrants' ability to seek asylum if they cross illegally, something the House Speaker has called for but says amounts to election year gimmicks.
Governor, you have successfully made blue states pay attention to the migrant crisis by sending tens of thousands of migrants to cities like New York and Chicago. President Biden is considering an executive action to restrict migrants' ability to seek asylum after they illegally cross the border. Would you support that?
So no, because what that would, if he were to grant asylum after migrants cross the border illegally, that would be authorizing illegal immigration, and that would cause chaos. But listen, Dana, one thing you mentioned, you said he's considering executive action. Know this, and that is what the president said a couple of weeks ago, that he needed Congress to pass a law for him to be able to take action. That was completely false. The fact of the matter is there are laws on the books passed by Congress of the United States right now that authorize the executive branch to deny illegal entry if people get here illegally, to detain them, as well as to require the president and the presidential administration to build border barriers. The president is not using his executive authority to do any of those things that Congress has already authorized. The president does not need new laws. The president needs a backbone to make sure that he enforces the immigration laws that are already on the books.
Governor, let me just jump in, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but our understanding of what the president is considering is restricting migrants' ability to seek asylum. Why not support that?
Because, well, let me tell you what I heard you say, and that is I heard you say that people who enter the country illegally would be able to go through an accelerated asylum process. Understand this, in the state of Texas, we have 28 ports of entry, and it is illegal in the United States of America for these illegal immigrants to cross between those ports of entry.
Right.
What the president has to do first is to establish clearly anybody who crosses the border between a port of entry illegally must be treated in an illegal way, subject to arrest. And so the first thing the president of the United States has to do is say no more crossing the border between a port of entry, and saying that if you cross the border between a port of entry, you lose your ability to seek asylum in the United States.
Before I let you go, do you have any interest in being Donald Trump's running mate?
So then, listen, my focus is solely on Texas, and my interest is, first of all, supporting the President Trump getting elected, and that means helping him find the right vice presidential candidate who will help President Trump get elected, and then help him be successful when he does get elected. And I think there's so many people other than myself who are best situated for that. I can best help President Trump by being the leader of Texas, helping him achieve what he needs to achieve in the great state of Texas.
I think they're doing the absolute right thing by standing their ground. They have every right to defend the sovereignty of their state. And yes, we've seen massive numbers of people flooding New York City. We've seen crime, drugs, all that stuff is very significant, but it's also a fundamental issue. A country has borders. If you don't have a border, you are not a country.
Here with more, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, first, I applaud your efforts. You've been on the show many times. You've tried convoys. You have done everything humanly possible. So your state, with its constitutional right, has put up the razor wire. They take you to court on that. And now they set up a confrontation between your National Guard and federal border troops. Now, I don't think either side of that equation wants to be enemies. They're all on the same side, aren't they?
They are, and as you pointed out, and as Border Patrol Council and Border Patrol members have made clear to Texas and to myself, they want to have nothing to do with regard to tearing down that razor wire or tearing down the barriers that Texas has erected, for one simple reason, and that's because they are working. Border Patrol says that what Texas has done to secure the border actually makes their job even easier. The only resistance we're facing is coming from Joe Biden. Know this, Sean, and that is Joe Biden is in violation of federal law that already exists. For one, he is not living up to his duty to deny illegal entry across the border. Instead, he's aiding that illegal entry. The second thing is he's not, once people do cross the border, he is not detaining them as he's required by law. And so he's giving mass parole across the country. Because Joe Biden is not enforcing the federal immigration laws, that gives Texas the right, under that Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, to defend ourselves from imminent harm, or from an invasion. So Texas has every constitutional right in this case. And I believe when the sun sets on this, Texas will be vindicated and the Constitution will be strengthened.
Joe Biden has been aiding and abetting in the law breaking. Joe Biden not even go further. He is violating the laws of this country. He is violating his oath to uphold our Constitution. I can put up on the screen, Title 8 USC 1324. It prohibits alien smuggling, domestic transportation. It goes into, every harboring illegal immigrants, encouraging or inducing, conspiracy, aiding and abetting.
Well, fair point, but also you're making another profound point. You listed all those different ways that the Biden administration has these duties and responsibilities. Because they're not just doing that job poorly, but because they have totally abandoned doing that job whatsoever. That is exactly what gives Texas our constitutional right for Texas to be able to act. So by Texas building the barriers that we have, by us taking the action to repel illegal immigration, we're fully authorized because the federal government has ceded or conceded the field of immigration enforcement, and Texas has picked up that duty, and we're the ones in self-enforcement. And let me tell you this amazing number, Sean. If you know where that park is, where Texas now has taken over and we've blockaded that park, that is an area where sometimes over the past year, there would be as many as 2 or 3 or more than that 1,000 people coming across the border a day. Yesterday, there were just 6 people crossing the border. All 6 of those people were arrested by Texas law enforcement officers. We have now cracked down and been able to staunch the flow of illegal immigration. Biden should want this replicated across the entire border. That's what Texas is trying to do as we speak.
I got to say one good thing. Your fellow Republican governors have been pretty amazing. They've all come to your defense, every one of them. And they're offering guard troops. They are offering razor wire. They're offering all the help. They understand that you're bearing the brunt of this, but they also understand that their states are also impacted by Joe Biden's open borders. And these people are unvetted, as I keep pointing out. And now Joe Biden's being encouraged to federalize your National Guard, your state guard. What happens if he tries that? What if that happens?
If he tries to do that, well, first of all, as you know, this is the #1 issue in America. Americans want a secure border. If Joe Biden federalizes our National Guard, that would be the biggest political blunder that he could make. And that's why I think he will not do it. That said, of course, I am prepared in the event that they do make such a blunder to make sure that Texas will be able to continue to secure our border.
You've heard from these former retired FBI, people in the upper echelon of the FBI warning that this is an invasion, warning that a lot of these people are, men that are of age that they could wage war on the country. What are the odds that from these countries that they're coming from that?
Well, so Sean, what you just said taps into the words in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, where it talks about imminent danger. We are in imminent danger because, as you rightfully point out, these are facts. And that is, there are people who are known terrorists who are coming across the border that pose an imminent danger, whether it be in Texas or some other state. Because Biden is not doing his job, that fully authorizes the state of Texas to protect our state and our country from that imminent danger.
Yeah. Governor, I applaud what you're doing. It's unfair that Texas has to go through this. I am glad that your fellow Republican governors have all stepped up and they're offering you assistance in any way they can. That speaks volumes about them. I hope the United States
Sean,
Senate
if
Republicans.
I could, let me just say, let me say thank you to my fellow governors. Half of America now is standing against the Biden administration, also more than a majority of all the attorneys general across the country. Biden is not taking on Texas. Biden is taking on the United States of America.
You've done a great job, Governor, under very difficult circumstances, and everybody's pulling for you down there. Hang in there.
Immigration is going to be one of the biggest issues in the November elections, and these are the 2 frontrunners for their parties. So let's start with President Biden. His team announced today that he is going to be in Brownsville, Texas, near the Gulf of Mexico. They say that he is going to meet there with local officials, with law enforcement, with Border Patrol officers. He's going to get a sense of what's happening on the ground, and he's going to use the opportunity to push House Republicans to support a border deal that he cut with Senate Democrats and Republicans several weeks ago that House Republicans declared dead on arrival. And then the former president, President Trump, is going to be about 300 miles away in Eagle Pass, Texas. And if that location sounds familiar, it is because that is where last month the governor of Texas ordered the Texas National Guard to essentially stand up to and box out the Border Patrol, keep them out of a public park where there were a lot of migrants coming across the border and being processed. And that led to this very strange standoff between the Border Patrol and the Department of Justice, really, and the state of Texas over who controlled that park and the right to process migrants as they came across the border. So the former president is going to be there. Pretty clear why he chose that location. Most likely he will talk about why he feels that the governor of Texas did the right thing amid this continued dispute between the federal government and the
blaming Republicans for Joe lying and saying he's done everything. I've done everything I could possibly do, he said. Why won't Republicans help me? Now, he, a Mayorkas, and Kamala Harris, they now blame Republicans for their failed policies. Is this some kind of cynical joke? You decide.
Do you bear responsibility for what is happening at the border? What the president himself has called a crisis.
It certainly is a crisis, and well, we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system. But fundamentally, Congress is the only one who can fix it.
Give me the power. I'm asking the very day I got it off. Give me the border control. Give me the people to judge. Give me the people to stop this.
Oh, I've done everything I could do? Really? You caused the problem. You didn't have the problem when you got into the White House. Now, this strategy doesn't appear to be working. Donald Trump is now surging ahead of Biden in nearly every key swing state. That would be Michigan and Wisconsin and North Carolina, Arizona.
Our next guest is a Brownsville resident who shares this shocking video and so much more, which he says is a drug cartel, drug drop being made right in broad daylight. Deborah Bell joins us right now. Deborah, nice to see you. Is it going to be great to see the president?
Thanks for having me, Brian. I think absolutely the opposite. As soon as that article published yesterday on Fox News, I had a multitude of messages saying, why is Biden coming to Brownsville? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Why is he coming? Can we protest? People are not happy that he is choosing right now of all times to come to Brownsville.
So right now, Bill Malugin says crossings are down. 150, 250 a day, which might be high, but considering what else is going on the border, they're down 23%. Why do you think he'd go to a place where the crossings are down?
Crossings are down, but voting numbers are up, and people are not happy down here. In the past 8 years, we've had the highest Republican turnout show up in Cameron County. We've had some really great grassroots movement here, and I think the nation is taking notice. We just had Franklin Graham here over the weekend that drew a crowd of almost 4,000 people in Brownsville alone, spreading the message of hope. And then, of course, his tour was focused on the border. We have Eduardo Versteeghe coming in on Friday, another conservative advocate. And I think Biden's taken notice that the trend down here is shifting, and people are very unhappy with what's going on.
You said there's
especially
actually a
when
fence.
you see in that video.
Right, and the video that you provided is very telling. And you said so. Yeah, they actually have a fence that gets opened up to allow these people to come in and drugs to get across.
That is true. So we've got, I have a resident in an area in Southmost Brownsville that sent me a video, very unhappy. You see these people, the immigrants lined up on the other side, which is the American side still. But nevertheless, we have a wall there built to deter them. And when the federal government comes to pick them up, they enter the passcode and open the fence and then load them on the buses and take them to the nearest processing center. It doesn't make logical sense.
But what do you think he will see? Because the Border Patrol tells him the truth to his face. He'll be talking about the worst border in American history in a state that's paid the bigger price than any in the country. Do you think he's going to get that truth? Because he didn't get it last time.
Absolutely not. Everybody's talking, and I mean everybody, the residents, the agents, everybody's talking about how this is going to be a dog and pony show. He's coming at a wonderful time. We're in the middle of a Chado Days Festival, which is a celebration between Matamoros, Mexico and Brownsville, Texas. And so things are going to look nice. The downtown area is already cleaned up, roped off. We're getting ready to have some really great parades and some real cultural celebration going on here. So things are already going to look nice.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever needs to be fixed will be fixed, obviously, for President Biden. And let's say if it wasn't fixed, he doesn't care anyways. He knows exactly what he's done to our country, and he's just coming to survey his damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's caught him by surprise. 71% of the American public look at it as a very serious problem, and 53% say now build the wall. I didn't think anybody could get the country to agree on so much so soon, but I salute you, Joe Biden.
Now, he can reinstate all of those policies just as simply, just as easily as he undid them with the stroke of a pen. And now, after years of aiding and abetting the rampant law breaking at our southern border, well, now, after 3 years of lying, the White House announced that Biden, wow, out of nowhere, he's going to visit the border for just the second time, although the first time, I would argue, wasn't really a visit, and it's going to happen this Thursday. And how convenient. Well, it is the same day the former President Trump will be touring the border himself. By the way, we have a major announcement on this front later in the show. But wait, the Biden White House, they've been telling all of us, the American people, just like they tell the American people, Joe does more in an hour than the average American does in an entire day. Anyone believe that? Or I never spoke to Hunter, my brother, or anybody for that matter about their foreign business deals. But I think their biggest lie was about our border. The border is closed. The border is secure. They said it over and over and over again. Shall we remind you? Take a look.
Sounds to most folks like a crisis. Well, look, it's way down now. We've now gotten control.
Precisely that. The border is closed. Nor could I have been clearer and continued to be so, which is the border is closed.
The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
The border, we are working to make the border more secure.
You're confident this border is secure?
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
We agree that the border is secure.
18 to 25, 26 years old.
The fight to try to stop shoplifting and help prevent stores from shutting down.
New York Governor Hochul proposing a $45 million effort to stop retail theft and property crime.
$45 million. That's a lot of money, but shoplifting here is also up 60% for some reason.
After entering the store, police say customers were ordered to get to the ground. The suspects then went to town, stealing about $51,000 worth of high-end merchandise.
We had a shoplifter in the store, and we had escorted him out of the store 4 times. The 5th time, he got upset and he threatened us.
In each case, the thieves are in and out quickly, taking off with tens of thousands of dollars in merchandise.
The smash and grab efforts, they go in and swipe everything off the shelves, and oftentimes they're loading into a stolen vehicle.
The problem getting so bad, New York State is setting up a task force to tackle it.
It aims to bolster security measures for businesses and establishes task forces within law enforcement that specifically target shoplifters.
Our criminal justice system is insane.
So shoplifting is up 64% in New York, which means that if a store was getting robbed 5 times a day, it's now getting robbed 8 or 9 times a day. And this trend shows no signs of slowing down. And according to a recent survey, 93% of New York City grocers were shoplifted last year. We're talking soap, candles, even the ice cream is getting stolen. And not only is it locked up, they unscrewed the handles, there's a lock on the top, and there's locks on the bottom of every refrigerator. But even though New York's governor has a $45 million plan to address shoplifting, critics say it's not going to do anything because it doesn't address the real reasons why crime here is out of control. On top of that, it's recently been exposed that when a business does dial 911 for shoplifting, the response times are so slow, the criminals usually get away. But according to this article, officers in high crime areas have started WhatsApp text groups. Apparently, merchants can share photos and intel with each other and with the police to help stop criminals and prevent crimes in progress. It's like a secret high-tech version of 911 the rest of us can't text. But before we look at why shoplifting in New York City is likely only going to get worse, it's important to understand that the types of shoplifting the city is now experiencing are unlike anything that's ever happened here before. So, one of the craziest heists in recent New York City memory happened a couple of weeks ago right here at the Gucci store in the middle of New York's meatpacking district. Apple store across the street, there's a luxury hotel, there's a Tesla dealership, Lululemon. It's the entire corner here right on 14th Street.
You can see the suspects, 2 men and a woman, at work. Police say customers were ordered to get to the ground. The suspects then went to town, stealing about $51,000 worth of high-end merchandise. How did they get away?
Now, I'm not a detective, but that woman, her face is clearly visible. She'll definitely get caught. And after she gets caught in a plea deal, she'll rat out the other 2. But these crooks had time. They had as much time as they wanted to steal whatever they wanted from that store, and that's exactly what they did. No security, no police. They just walked in and walked out. Now, yes, $45 million is a lot of money to address crimes like this, but the criminals here made off with $51,000 worth of stuff. And these new plans, not only do they ignore the main reason why this is happening, those criminals are still out there.
The woman pulled up to the curb in a black Honda CRV right near the store entrance. Once the men were inside the vehicle, it sped off. Police say the suspects drove through the Lincoln Tunnel onto New Jersey, and from there, we don't know where they went.
So the getaway car was actually parked right here, and there's a fire hydrant. This is actually a no parking zone right in front of the store. It's almost like the perfect place to illegally park if you're going to do something else that's even more illegal, and then get away right away because there's no traffic. Although they did almost hit a cyclist at the end of the street. Now, the getaway vehicle they were in was also likely stolen. And what's also crazy is when you look at that security footage, you don't see any flashing lights out here on the street. This was a clean escape. No one was coming to stop these guys. And although the store employees probably called 911, the reason so many stores are closing is because 911 isn't as effective as it used to be.
I don't understand this. They have security there. Obviously, security did not want to engage with them because you don't know if they're carrying guns or whatever. But they took their darn time. They were wheeling luggage. They had big armfuls of bags. I mean, it didn't look like they ran in and ran out.
Interesting. So the store itself had security. But honestly, you can't blame security for failing to engage armed bandits. This little white bag is just not worth your life. And what's also pretty crazy is the time at which this took place. Broad daylight, just like right now. This did not go down in the middle of the night. It happened during the middle of the day. They're not worried about police. They're not worried about consequences. They're not even worried about getting caught. lot, and you'd assume that most $50,000 heists involve criminals escaping into the night. But that's not what happened. They just drove down 14th Street. But if you think $50,000 is a lot, the next heist we're going to cover, which also took place this past month, the criminals made off with 5 times as much stuff.
The padlock has been replaced on the cellar doors at Rebag, a luxury boutique where thieves broke in through the basement last week and took off with handbags and jewelry worth $225,000.
So this next heist has a lot of similarities with the Gucci heist, except the store is smaller and the crooks made off with way more money, which makes me think it's an inside job. Now, when I say money, I mean merchandise. And this place was a luxury consignment cellar. But according to the news, this cheap padlock here with a 4-digit combination, this was supposed to keep everything in the store safe, which it was sadly unable to do. Yes, I know this is a replacement, but believe it or not, this door right here, this is how the crooks got in.
Police say they were later seen on MTA video after they took the subway to Queens. Although the burglary happened in the middle of the night, it's yet another high-profile, high-end theft.
So these crooks, once again, not the brightest bulbs on the shelf. They were smart enough to get in here and steal everything and get away with it, but they weren't smart enough not to take the subway where there's cameras everywhere. But this had to have been an inside job, because how else do you know what's on the other side of a door like this? The basements in these 100-year-old buildings are not exactly straightforward. There's all kinds of twists and turns. It's like a labyrinth down there. Plus, there's probably other security measures, different doors that are locked, cameras, other devices like alarms that could alert the authorities. And now the question becomes, how did they know what was inside here? Were they employees? Were they vendors who delivered items to the store? And to prove this was premeditated, right next door, you have another luxury store. Ditto across the street, and across the street next to that. This neighborhood is basically all stores. And what this basically means is that it was not a random act of theft. No, that's not what happened. They knew that that hatch led inside the store. They knew what was inside the store. They knew what time to go, and they got $250,000 worth of stuff. That's insane. And police say in this area, there have been 30 burglaries so far this year. These stores are all going to close because of theft.
First protocol is just to make sure your staff is safe, which is the most scary part about it all.
Tommy Torres and his colleague Maddie Jolito work at 7 for All Mankind just next door to Rebag. Soho community groups say security's been stepped up, but frustration here is giving way to resignation.
So that interview took place at this store, which is next to the store that was ransacked. You got to feel so bad for the people working at a little store like this, putting their life on the line. But the thing nobody seems interested in talking about is that if you steal under $1,000 worth of stuff in New York, it's a misdemeanor. Now, yes, $250,000, that's way more than a misdemeanor amount. But how do you think those criminals got practice working up to those big numbers? They probably gained experience robbing lesser stores for lesser amounts of money. In fact, repeat offenders are so common that 30% of the retail theft crime in 2022 was committed by just 300 people. But unfortunately, repeat offenders don't just target luxury boutiques, which is why the next heist on our list is probably the saddest one of them all. So here we have a small, privately owned and operated bodega / grocery store. These things are all over the place. There's actually one right across the street, which is open and operating. But one of these recently got hit so hard by theft that the people there were terrified and afraid for their lives. And these are places that serve the local community with things everybody can afford.
Nayeli DeJesus says shoplifting at her Bronx Associated Supermarket's gotten so bad, her employees fear what could happen if they try to stop a shoplifter. Take the shoplifter who came to her store 5 times trying to steal.
The 5th time we asked him to leave the store, he threatened to come back with a gun.
Now, it's one thing for crooks to rob a consignment store and shut it down, but a place that sells food, this is the type of place a neighborhood relies on. And it's not like the owners of this place are getting filthy rich. The grocery business is a low-margin business. It's not exactly charity. It's still a business, but it's not a get-rich-quick, that's for sure. And the idea that little places like this are targets for armed robbers, that is incredibly frightening, and something has to be done. But the problem is New York City's laws are so lax, there's not a whole lot that can be done to stop criminals from getting emboldened to the levels we've seen.
Thankfully, my brother was able to escape towards the end of the store with about 15 to 20 customers, and they locked themselves in a room. This time, we just got lucky.
Retail theft has skyrocketed.
Honestly, that's the most frightening thing I think I've ever seen. And here you've got employees ducking behind countertops, taking cover. This is almost horrific. And after a store gets shut down for shoplifting, all of the other neighborhood stores raise their prices. And it's not because they're greedy. If one store closes because of theft, the other store's probably getting looted as well. They have to raise their prices to stay in business, and then they have to raise them again because all the criminals are going to target them, and the customers at the store have to absorb a certain percentage of shoplifting every time they buy anything. We're the ones paying for it. It definitely contributes to inflation. People in the city are struggling enough trying to afford basic stuff, but because of theft, every single thing in the store now costs more than it used to. And even though locking up expensive items like they do at CVS might stop them from getting stolen from a store like this, it still means the store has to raise prices because to open those boxes, you need an employee with a key. That means you need more staff. Everything contributes to higher prices. And the real scary thing is that this contributes to food deserts. This place is closed. that place is the only one left. Don't expect to buy convenience items across the street. That whole corner is already shut down. Although that's not what the governor says.
Shoplifters, which Governor Kathy Hochul is going after, introducing a $45 million initiative to drive down retail theft. It aims to bolster security measures for businesses and establishes task forces within law enforcement that specifically target shoplifters. The legislation also increases penalties for those.
So higher penalties for those selling stolen goods. How about higher penalties for stealing the goods in the first place? But it doesn't do that. Luckily, it apportions money for police to dedicate to full-time theft prevention, which is definitely something retailers in harder hit neighborhoods need for sure. But although 25 million sounds like a lot, New York City has a shortage of police. And one wonders what the police will not be able to do if they get pulled off one thing and put on another. You've now got moped gangs roaming the streets, snatching purses, snatching cell phones. Assaults are also rising along with theft. And there's also a $10 million amount that's going to go towards district attorneys so that they can more aggressively prosecute retail theft. But the district attorneys we have aren't prosecuting the crimes that we already have. In this town, even criminals who attack the police are let go without bail, which makes you wonder, what is a DA who doesn't prosecute crime going to do with an extra $10 million?
It's gotta stop. And that's the reason Governor Hochul is going after shoplifters because, well, it's part of a growing trend. 2020.
So this does have to stop. But to some extent, the governor's hands are tied on this one. She can't just rewrite the laws of New York. But one part of this new plan will allow businesses to have tax credits if they hire security. It's definitely not an ideal crime prevention strategy. And although it's better than nothing, why isn't this entire plan just to hire more police? Why do we think that doing something other than hiring police is going to stop crime in this town? Hiring more police and changing the laws so the criminals they arrest stay in jail. At a minimum, it would be nice to see these new store security guards be able to detain criminals until police arrive. And one wonders if businesses will be able to hire armed security who will actually be able to deter a threat. But at the end of the day, nothing is probably going to change here in New York because nobody wants to address the real reasons why crime is out of control. So many critics of New York City are saying that the crime that we're experiencing now all started from laws that were passed back in 2020, specifically bail reform laws that have had a major effect on policing and what happens after somebody gets arrested. And these laws changed how and when judges could impose monetary bail on someone who was arrested. Bail is collateral that you put down in exchange for your return to the court when it's time for your trial. If you come back, you get the money back. But the problem with bail is that not everyone can afford bail. Somebody who's rich and breaks the law can get out of jail, whereas somebody who's poor and may or may not have broken the law also gets arrested. They're stuck because the bail is too high. This is a real issue. And since we live in a country where everyone is innocent until proven guilty, it seemed to many here in New York that bail was an unjust way of locking up potentially innocent people. But now the problem is dangerous criminals are free to walk the streets and re-offend. And this is especially problematic when you consider that 30% of all crime in 2022 was committed by just 300 people who were not able to be kept behind bars until their trials could begin. Or worse, they just paid fines and were let go. And just think of the guy that robbed the grocery store 5 times and got away with it. That's just incredibly frightening. People like that shouldn't be out there. And this is happening all over the city, even if it doesn't make the news. The other problem is that New York's bail reform laws no longer allow judges to consider how dangerous a person may or may not be, because a dangerous person should probably be kept off the streets, but this state does not allow that. And in a recent travesty of justice, gang members who attacked police were released without bail, and then they fled the state to try and escape justice. And what's crazy about that is the district attorney did not ask the judge for bail, even though attacking police is a bail-eligible offense. So even if we change the bail laws, if we've got the same DAs and the same judges...
Our criminal justice system is insane.
Mayor Eric Adams once again attacking New York's bail laws, placing the blame for the rise in crime entirely on the back of these reforms that were first passed in 2019.
So that video's from a year ago. The mayor, a former police officer, he knows that things here are a mess. And he's aware that the justice system in New York, which does protect the innocent, is completely being taken advantage of by criminals who are using it as a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Recidivists are driving crime in New York City, according to the mayor and NYPD officials. 716 individuals the NYPD says are responsible for 30% of...
So there you go. 700 people responsible for some of the most violent crimes, just like the 300 people responsible for most of the shoplifting. This is called recidivism. Recidivism means that a person does something bad, experiences a negative consequence, and then keeps doing it. Although if they get released without bail, I'm not so sure what the negative consequence is, or if there even was one. And what that could mean is that laws like New York City's bail reform initiatives, they might be great for keeping the innocent out of jail, but they keep the guilty out of jail as well. And at the exact same time, the streets remain dangerous. And the big question is, how do we protect people who haven't done anything wrong while protecting the rest of us from becoming victims and from having our supermarkets shut down, from having luxury items ripped off the shelves in stores that tourists will come to visit? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.